Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Today we have a very special episode for you because today we have Toyota's flagship car for India, I think. The Toyota Hilux. Okay, it's not the flagship, but it is the most recognizable Toyota, right? It's the Toyota where if you're in a Fortuner and you see one in the rearview mirror, you move out of the way and let the Hilux go through, right?
That is true. That is true. The Hilux isn't the flagship, but it is carrying a lot of weight for sure.
Explain.
Okay, this is just about what happened. I was driving it this morning, and because of what the Hilux is, you have to drive it in a particular way.
Okay.
So you have to drive it with the acceptance that this thing is big. And I think that is the key statement about the Hilux. It's just massive. The Fortuner itself is big. This is even bigger than the Fortuner. Like the wheelbase is that much longer, and the overall length is that much longer. It's like an additional house at the back. My parking, I've got a picture of that. Everything fits in the parking usually. The Hilux has its chin, nose, face hanging out of the parking like that. It's that big, and I reversed it as close as I dared to the wall at the back. And I had
That's only to protect the wall from the Hilux. I'm just saying.
So I was driving it, and by the time I got to the expressway, I was driving from Pune to Mumbai, and by the time I got to the expressway, I'd kind of settled into this mood that this you have to drive with grace, right? You're not hurrying this thing around. It's not that the performance is lacking or anything, but it's that big. You don't. If you went making lane changes in this thing and somebody's watching in the rearview mirror, they're gonna think there's an apocalypse coming their way. It's just gonna look that terrifying.
He said apocalypse, not the usual target group for the Hilux.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not supposed to make that joke, so we won't make it again.
So when I got to the expressway, so I was settled into the groove of driving the Hilux, and which was like, okay, you sit around, say you're holding 100, and it's effortless at that speed. And when you get into the fast lane to overtake somebody, and you realize that after that there's another vehicle, you realize everybody's just kind of. And the interesting thing was there were two groups that did this, and that took me by surprise.
Okay.
One was the Innovas, right? And Innovas usually have, they're king of the road, so to speak. The Innovas watch you in the mirrors and they notice you're coming up. I have not flashed nothing. I've just sat at the back, and the first opportunity they get, move over and you go through. Same thing with Fortuners. Fortuners are just like, yeah, okay, fine. But the interesting thing was the cabs. The cabs would pull over. Usually on the expressway, the Desires and the Ertigas and all will just sit there at 80 and not budge. But yet they notice the Hilux coming and everybody just kind of moves over. And I know when we did the Fortuner story, somebody commented saying that, my dad bought the Fortuner, and he said the reason he bought the Fortuner, that's his reason, is I live in India and I don't like to honk. So I thought it was like that made so much sense.
Yeah,
right?
that's why I wouldn't buy a Creta because I don't like to flash.
Okay. And in this,
And if you have a Hilux, you don't have to flash at the Creta to get it out of the way.
everything moves. Everything moves. It might also be that the car that we are driving is a little bit loud because it's wearing some graphics, and it's also wearing a lot of accessories, but that doesn't matter. But it's a car that gets attention.
Yeah, our car is spectacular because you've got the Citroen Basalt door handles on top of the wheel arches. It's a very well done car, and a roll cage on our car which says this is not a roll cage. This is just a what decorative accessory.
So all the stuff that he's mentioned, all of it is accessories, right?
Yeah.
From the cladding on the wheel arches to that roll cage, all of it, even the bed liner, all of that is accessories. So the car as stock will not look as loud and will not have as many Hiluxes. But the point is, this car doesn't need any of that because by default, it is a massive car. And I think that, aside from the name, I think that was part of the appeal of these cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the size of it and the outlandish image of a pickup truck in our world. And so I would understand a lot of people are drawn to this by default, just as a, hey man, this will be so cool to have. I mean, I'm in that boat for sure.
Yeah.
And the whole curiosity was all the more heightened because we'd just driven the Fortuner a little while back, and it was a refresher about what the Fortuner stood for, and we realized that the Fortuner has moved ahead in so many ways. It's become a nicer car, as it were. It's still a Fortuner, but it's become a it's become a more pleasing machine now. It's become smoother, nicer to ride. In terms of the suspension, it's become quieter, more fun as it was. So
Yeah, so do you know the fundamental difference between the Fortuner and the Hilux?
yeah,
I mean, they share the platform and all that, but you know the fundamental difference? If you upgrade your Fortuner, you get a Legender.
huh.
The Hilux is just a Legend, okay?
Yeah. So after the Hilux is, I mean, there's no two ways about that. But again, coming from that standpoint, if you start from there, the Hilux, the Legend, is built on its utility.
Yep,
It is here in India as a lifestyle choice.
of course.
But the bottom line is that,
In India, utility is a lifestyle choice, bro.
and it is a utility vehicle. So that was the big learning for me out of this drive. That after I got into the Hilux, and you'll know the basics, that they are built on the same platform, the IMV platform on which the Crista was made, the Fortuner is made, and this is made. And so you'll expect a closer relationship between this and the Fortuner because they're also sharing the engines. They're sharing the gearboxes. So the engine is the 2.8 liter 4-cylinder diesel, which has 200 something horsepower. And like with the Fortuner, the automatic gets it in 500 Newton meter tune, and the manual gets 420 Newton meter. And we got the manual. We were driving the manual. But when you get in and drive the car, you realize it's such a different experience. It's a completely different mood.
Okay.
Like I have come away from driving the Fortuner and saying, I enjoyed driving this, right? I enjoyed driving it quickly even, right? It had some sense of being connected. You enjoyed it on the highway because of the quietness of it and all of that. And then when you step into the Hilux and you get that this is definitely more utility oriented. It has a lot of, like when you get in the cabin, the dashboard looks just like the Fortuners. That similarity is there. But the driving experience, everything tells you that this is
How?
very different. First, the steering. Heavy. Like at low speeds, it's heavy. Then when you get going, the suspension. It's like, if I have to say, people who've driven Thars can appreciate this.
Oh, okay.
Right? It has that feel about it. When it goes over bumps, you'll get rattled around.
So the median on the road is an optional activity.
You don't have to worry about those kind of things. But you'll be going over like normal stuff and you'll get rattled around. And you'll be like, in this car? How could this happen? You know? But that's the thing. It's so focused on being built for doing really tough things and carrying a load and all of that, that the regular stuff starts to feel a little crude.
Sure.
Because it's running light.
So, used to happen to the Gypsy also.
Correct.
On the exact opposite end of the weight spectrum.
Correct.
Right? Where if you didn't have a Gypsy fully loaded up, it would just like shake through everything and you'd be like, who wants to live with this?
That's exactly the thing. Like unless and until you get the sense, okay, so you feel all this like when you're going through the city over smaller stuff that will rattle you, but you get over really bad stuff.
Then it settles down.
Then it gets smoother and better. You're going faster over it, it's better. It's more bad stuff. If it's just one thing, you'll feel it. You go over a series of things like that and you'll be like, oh, I can't feel it as much. So everything, the more stress that it goes through, the less it conveys to you. It's like that. So initially it'll feel more rattly and shaky and all of that. But the more abuse it's having to deal with, the more work it has to do, the less is transmitted to you.
Right.
So it's a car that's meant to do hard work. And choosing to have it as a lifestyle vehicle, as a companion for the imagery of it, is going to be a compromise. There's no two ways about it.
Right.
This is the similar thought that I had when I drove even the new gen Thar back to from Mumbai to Pune and back. I was like, yeah, this is a lot better than what the previous gen Thar was. But would I want to do it again?
Right.
I can do it, but would I want to do it again?
Correct.
And immediately as I got into the Hilux, the thought was, yeah, this is the kind of vehicle you get in and say, I'm going to go see the world and, just travel with it. And the thought was, how much time would it take for me to make peace with this aspect of it? Right? So that was one of the key thoughts for me when I was driving it. So the heavy steering, when you're going faster, it's okay. It's not so heavy. The engine, that also has a very different feel. Okay, before I move to the engine, the chassis itself, because it's so much longer, it's meant to carry heavy loads. Like this thing, interestingly, they don't quote boot space for this, right? It doesn't have a boot. if Shumi goes with his usual Hyundai style, all to the ceiling, there's no ceiling here, right? So you
Yeah.
can stack as much as you want. So they actually quote payload capacity, which is under 500 kilos. So you can put in half a ton of stuff back there,
Correct.
right?
And the
track it.
suspension tune would be to account for that. Which is why
Exactly.
when the half ton is missing, then
Exactly.
so on slow speeds you'll be shaken but not stirred. But when you go fast, you'll be stirred but not shaken.
It's a vehicle that has been the chassis also. It feels different from the Fortuner. It doesn't feel like the same kind of tune. Like the front end, of course, similar kind of setup, but the rear is completely different. It's got leaf springs.
Right.
It doesn't have coilovers
Yeah.
like that. So it's a different setup at the rear, and you can feel that. The way it behaves over the broken bits, you can tell that. So it started from how it feels. I looked that up afterwards. And I was like, this doesn't feel the same. And then I realized that, yeah, because there's a lot more done to it for it to work as a pickup in the first place.
Right.
The good thing is that the engine is easy to drive. I was driving the manual and the clutch is heavy. This car's done 16,000 journalist kilometers, so it's not a young car.
Correct.
But the car itself, the performance was smooth. Like you were doing all your work between 750 and 1500 RPM. Just intrinsically, you were shifting up at, you look down, yeah, it's 1500. It's done its business. So you're sitting in sixth gear, 100 kilometers an hour, 1500 RPM. It's completely relaxed. There's nothing. You're hopping around like that on the expressway, but the engine is completely unstressed. So the engine is effortless, but is it engaging like it was in the Fortuner? It's not. There is a difference in the way it's delivering performance.
Right.
It doesn't have that same spiritedness about it. So
How much heavier is it than the Fortuner? Roughly?
I don't know offhand, but I think it would be about 200, 300 kilos, something like that. I'm guessing. I don't know right now. And I took it. I was driving down from Pune, but I also drove back up just to do the highway section. I mean, the guard section. And on the old highway, so it's just tighter and all of that. And you realize that it doesn't feel that spirited then. So I put into power mode, and as with Toyotas, the drive modes really make a distinct difference, right? So you put into power mode, and then it's like, yeah, now it's gotten into the zone of driving quickly. So it has the ability to do that with a load, but it's not a car that you automatically, you look at it and you'll feel like, man, this is going to be fun. But it's not that kind of a
Yeah,
fun
it's a workhorse.
It's a workhorse, absolutely. And in this, there's one tech that I got to use again after a really long time, and I'd like to talk about that, is that Toyota's had this since the Krista came out, if I'm not wrong. I think it came with the Fortuner itself. When the Fortuner came out, they brought in this thing called IMT, Intelligent Manual Transmission.
Okay.
It's a really clever little thing. What it does is effectively rev matches. So when you're downshifting, it'll rev up
Pick
the
up
engine.
the revs. Okay.
When you're upshifting, it'll again smoothen out the torque flow. And I can't tell you how much of a difference it actually makes in your...
Got it. Okay.
So like that subtle sense of the torque brake, it handles that so nicely. And these are the small things that make driving such a big vehicle even
so
nicer.
much simpler. Yeah.
So that if you pick a manual, you should use that. It's a button that you can activate it, and you should try it out. It's not a gimmick. It will help you out, make the drive smoother. So and it's been there for ages, but we haven't driven the manual in a long time. We've been driving the automatics. So that was one thing. The surprising thing with the car is, like, despite its size, you get used to it really quickly.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
The width is not more than the Fortuner.
It's not.
So it's the same thing.
It's just a long thing.
It's just long. But I think the big difference is because your rear window is so large that you can see everything at the back. You can see just the edge of the tailgate over there, and then you can see the entire road behind you. So you quickly get comfortable with the size of the car. That wasn't the thing that bothered me in this time that I was driving it.
Sure.
It's just initially when you get into the car and you start driving, and you're conscious of this being a big car.
Yeah.
But other than that, you stop thinking about its size. The only other time you'll start thinking about the size again is when you have to make a U-turn, because it is big. You have to, like if it's a normal road as well, if you're making a U-turn, you're gonna have to back up and to make the turn. It's big, and then
Yeah.
heavy, so it'll make you work. In the cabin, Toyota-esque, like I said, Fortuner-esque dashboard.
So down market.
So
High quality down market.
yeah, I mean, like built to last, that kind of sense. You get everything functionally fine, but no sense of occasion, right?
No, zero.
Yeah, nothing.
The first time I ever saw a Hilux, my first reaction was, I was not sure how expensive the car is. But when I see the interior, it doesn't look like an expensive car's interior.
No. And I think even if it was simpler, like, there are a lot of details, like if you see the instrument cluster, the surround for the dials, it has these beveled edges and like as though it's been chiseled with a hammer and that kind of stuff. Like stuff which is there, but I think a simpler design would even make this look better over time. So there are all those kind of things which I still feel that they are trying to do stuff, but it's not really quite hitting the mark. Simplicity could just help the car as well in terms of its design. But the seats, great. And the one thing I want to point out, 8-way power adjustable driver seat. And with the Hilux, they have effectively just one trim. It's called the High.
So you're buying the Hilux?
Yes. You only have the option of a manual transmission or an automatic transmission. That's it.
And the variant that you buy is the Hilux. Hilux automatic and the Hilux?
Yeah, correct. And there is a standard, but the standard is basically meant for commercial use. That's not what you and I would buy. And the equipment wise, it's dual zone air conditioning and all of that. What you will not get is ADAS tech.
Which is okay.
Yeah. What you would want in a car like this is a 360-degree camera, which you don't get. You have reversing camera and front parking sensors. Thankfully, they all work well. The reversing camera is good. It's actually, a lot of cameras don't give you a good sense of depth, so you have to guess a lot. In this, that's not the case. Like right where I started, the first time I parked it in my parking lot, and it's not particularly bright there, I could gauge how much space I had left, and that was good. The front parking sensors were useful, especially when you were stopped in traffic and there was passing traffic. It would just quickly draw attention to people moving around, and which is good.
To the small cars that are just passing by just under your bonnet line, which you can't see,
There are a lot of small instances like, bikes will cut through and all, and you're like, thank God. With this, it's a good thing to have. So on the whole, the bottom line for me is that this is a car that is functionality oriented. And even in the cabin, it is a comfortable cabin to travel in. The seats I really liked. The AC worked well, all of that. Cruise control was good. The back seat, better than I expected. It's not cramped. There is enough
So it's
space.
not super spacious, but it's not going to be cramped either.
Yeah, like if you're a 6-footer and you're planning to spend, like, let's say, going from Delhi to Mumbai, you're not going to like it. While there is space, you're still not sitting that high up and stuff, right? It's for a couple of hours or so, you'll be fine. But that back seat is better for shorter adults like me, that for longer distances. So,
and before you say it, please don't stick your children in the load bay. That's not what it's supposed to be. Theoretically, it's illegal and it's enormously unsafe.
Yeah, over a bump.
Yeah.
And yeah, on that note, talking about bumps, in the back seat, unless at city speeds, unless you're going really slow over speed breakers, you're just going to go just from the driver's seat to that back seat. It's not that far away, right? In the overall length of the car, but immediately the difference is so much. Like when I spent time in the back, you could feel that every speed breaker. When I was driving Aditya around, Aditya was in the back, I was like, yeah, I gotta go slow over that because I can see him going. So it's a function-oriented machine that is being positioned as a lifestyle vehicle for our market. And I don't know what the scene is globally. Apparently, I saw this on Wiki, that Toyota have 3 different states of tune for the suspension, depending on which market. So they have one comfort-oriented one for Thailand, because that's where pickups are like everyday
Everywhere,
vehicles,
yeah.
right? Then they have one which is utility oriented, which goes to Australia and stuff like that. And then there's one which is a balance of both. I don't know which one we've got here in India, but this to me, I think, is the balance of both one. It's not the hardcore one. I don't think this is the comfort one. If this is the comfort one, not a happy space. So if you're looking at an Hilux as a lifestyle vehicle, keep in mind that it's utility first and lifestyle second.
Correct.
Right? Aside from that, it's got, okay, and that's the other thing. Like everybody looks at this and thinks, oh my God, off-road. Yes, it has off-road running gear as, 4x4 gear as standard. And it's electronically activated from two-wheel high to four-wheel high.
It's a workhorse off-roader, not a recreational off-roader.
Correct. So a lot of people will automatically want to say that let's take this. This will go anywhere. No, this is not that kind. It'll do a lot.
Yes.
It'll do a lot of stuff. But is this the vehicle you pick to say that I'm going to climb a mountain? No, this is not that. It's also a big vehicle, and you have to keep that in mind every time.
Yep. I remember we were shooting something, and we had a Pajero, an Endeavour, and a couple of other off-roaders, and a little or a CJ 340, 540, something like that, right? And we were in the tea estates in Coorg, I think, right? And we were going some back road inside the coffee estate, and everything but the Endeavour did not struggle through that trail. And it was just the weight and the length of the Endeavour. As the slush got deeper and deeper, it became slipperier and slipperier. The smaller cars, they were in their element.
Right.
Ultimately, the Endeavour basically lost traction and went sideways into a ditch like this at 0 kmph.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it'll just slide
And it was not a failure on the Endeavour's part. It was just too large to be an off-roader in those conditions. And then 3 of us sat on the bonnet of the little Mahindra and we pulled the Endeavour out. And then the Endeavour was given to the most experienced off-roader in that group with the same caveat, saying it has four-wheel drive or whatever, but it's not in the same category of off-roaders. So where the Pajero would just skip through things, and the MM540 wouldn't even start to wake up and take notice of these things, the Endeavour was already struggling just because of weight and size.
Right.
This is why a Gypsy off-road will defeat a lot of much bigger and much more capable cars, because it simply isn't struggling with its own weight or wheelbase.
And which is the case with the Jimny today. I mean, like if you're, we'll keep saying this, if you're serious about going off-roading, you can't do better than that.
So the Hilux, for most people who are touring recreationally and going off-road, it will work. But if you're in that group that says, I want to go Sunday off-roading with my friends and hit the really hard stuff, you're going to make a lot of mods first. And still, it will be a really large and heavy car.
Yeah.
And it's not a great combination for that kind of hardcore work. And if you look at what goes into the Rainforest Challenge, where the really hardcore stuff happens, nobody has a large car.
So yeah, so the Hilux, I think, aside from being the utility focused machine that it is, I think the other challenge for it is its price tag, because it starts at some 32 lakhs.
That's what they're telling you on the website. Yeah, the actual prices are lower.
Yeah, so that's definitely been the case.
I think if you make a phone call to a dealer, you get 5 lakh rupees off.
And if you land up there, so there's it goes up to 38 lakhs, and whereas the Isuzu, the V-Cross,
38 lakhs being the automatic Hilux.
Yeah. And now they have a black edition that's just come out.
A black edition.
Yeah. So it's got all the chrome bits blacked out.
The Hilux badges also.
That I'm not sure of. I've only seen it on my desktop.
Well, if Rolls-Royce can have the black badge edition, then Toyota can certainly have the Hilux black, right?
Absolutely. And they are doing it. It's about the same price, 38 lakhs or so. Now, I think that's the other problem for the Hilux, and that is the price tag.
Just call the dealer, you'll get a discount.
Yeah. Correct.
No, I know people who at the first phone call got like a huge discount, and then they went there and physically and got an even larger discount.
So we also did,
I also know that Toyota tried to protect this by sending out press release saying there are no discounts.
So we also did
I know
call
somebody
dealers.
who called the dealer right after the press release came saying, but they're saying that, sir, please just come, we'll talk.
So we did call the dealer, and yes, that 4-5 lakhs was being signed off on a call. So when you turn up there with money in hand, you'll get value pricing for the Hilux after that. And in that regard, the V-Cross tops off at 32 lakhs. And the V-Cross doesn't have as much power as the Hilux.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing that on paper you can see as the big differentiator between the two.
Correct.
But the thing you can't see on paper, and the reason why the V-Cross has to come into this story is like
Is the only other pickup on sale in India right now?
not just that, but because as an evolution of pickups, what to expect from pickups. You know, we started off with the Scorpio pickup, right? It was
Getaway.
it was the Getaway. Yeah, it was the Getaway. Correct. It was the Getaway, and then we had the Xenon, and they were all workhorse pickups, right? And I remember when I was testing the Xenon way back then, and I was talking to the guys at Tata Motors about the vehicle, and they said this is benchmarked to the global standards. I said no way, right? And then that generation of the Fortuner, I remember when I drove it, I think I first drove it in Thailand or something like that. I was like, yeah, okay, I can see it, right? They were not car-like in the sense they had that gruffness about them. But then when I drove the V-Cross, and I was so taken aback.
Correct.
Because it feels so car-like. Like I remember telling people that, you know, young couples, like if you want to get one, go ahead. You know, it's not going to feel like a compromise.
Correct.
It'll feel like something you can live with. And I have friends who have the V-Cross and they love it.
Yeah.
They use it every day in the city.
Yeah.
They use it to travel with.
Correct.
And it's because of that friendliness of the suspension.
Yeah, no, it's also
of the cabin.
I think Anand's Anand is the person I go to the racetrack to teach with. When they moved to the Isuzu, there was a lot of like, are we making the right decision here? Because the utility of the Isuzu, because he runs a garage, parts have to be sent for painting, etc., was not lost on anyone. But the Innova had been this utterly reliable family vehicle, right? I remember asking Anand about 2 years later, saying, so how's the Isuzu working out? He says, actually, dude, I'm so relieved. It's just like an Innova. And I'm like, what do you mean by just like an Innova? He says, in the sense of it just runs. I don't need to do any work on it. The number of people who normally go in the Innova, they go into the Isuzu and they don't seem to notice. This is before the Krista. They don't seem to notice any lack of amenity or space. So we haven't lost anything and we've gained the load bay. I think we've made the good move.
Right.
And even today, that Isuzu is still there. Anand's moved on. So I think they drive a Tiguan now. They used to have a Creta for the longest time to get around Bengaluru with. But the Isuzu is still doing the same thing. It takes people, it takes loads, it takes stuff in the load bay to painting and back and all of this kind of thing. It's still running the same car.
So I think that balance of lifestyle and utility with that is really sweet. And I know that they hiked up their prices after about the time when the Hilux
It was a
came.
little bit of greed, no? Because it was such a well-priced car before that.
It was.
Right.
They have one excuse around there that they also operated the engine to go with the BS6 now. So they bumped up. That would have added to the cost. But it went from, you remember, it used to be like a 17 lakh or something like that car. And it went suddenly to 30. And you're like, what the hell just happened here?
BS6 was very expensive.
Yeah.
Let us take the price to D max. And people, our customers are going to be V-Cross. But what the hell?
It's still queuing up. So that benchmark of the V-Cross is in effect an outlier if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
But it is such a good benchmark. And then you wonder that how much of the Hilux's utility is really important to me.
Correct.
Because for sure, somebody who really wants to go and abuse their car, really use it in that sense, the Hilux will give you a lot more peace of mind. I'm not saying that the V-Cross is not going to be
No, but peace of mind is an intangible. It's not a real thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And of course, along with that, the Toyota network and all of that will be an added convenience to buying the Hilux. But how much does it matter to you? How important is that additional usability of, let's say, being able to just load it, travel with it, and do just that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think most people who are going to buy one of these is going to put a tent out back, which is a part of the accessories that Toyota has in their own brochure. What we don't know is whether it's road legal or not. A lot of people are doing it.
It's not road legal. There's no way.
Now,
Dude, you repaint a car in India and if you don't go to the RTO and tell them it is illegal, how can you put a house on the back?
But this is a big movement right now. You know how many people are doing this. Anybody who's getting a pickup.
As usual, when it becomes a movement, you know that the pitch is buggered, as it were, right? You know that there's people who are not genuinely into it. They're just like, think about it, dude. If you want to be outside in the wilderness, the whole idea is it's you and the wild having a moment together. If you've got all the conveniences of your household with you in the back of your car, you can't even sleep on the ground because you're like sitting on top of the roof of your car and sleeping. Are you really outside?
No, I like the idea. It's a very cool idea. I've seen the friends who have it.
I
It's
want to
nice.
take my building. I live in a 18-story building. I want to put wheels on it and Hilux badges on all sides, and then move this building around. And if anybody says, "Hey, it's a Hilux and it's just got my house on it," you're getting confused because of the design.
It's okay. Because I have recently, just like I told you with that camping thing that we went for, man, some of those things were, I mean, the moment was so awesome and
Yeah.
it's so easy to set up.
Yeah.
It has a certain fascination and certainly a experience out of it. Imagine just being able to travel anywhere.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to denigrate the entire lifestyle. I'm just saying, like with van life, you know what van life is, right? You should look it up. It's very hilarious because at the beginning, the guys who did the van life thing, almost before social media made van life a thing, they were genuinely doing the van thing. They would live out of their van and they would have a great time, and it was a Spartan lifestyle.
Yeah.
At the other end of it, van life is not Spartan anymore. Van life is lifestyle. And there is a fundamental difference. So yesterday I was researching something called a swag, which is an Australian word for a tent kind of thing, which has a mattress and everything built into it. And it's like an old bedroll. You roll it up, wrap it up, put it in a bag and load it in your car. So your tent effectively just rolls out and it's 90% of the work is done.
Okay.
3 minutes to put it up type of thing. And I thought this is a great idea. If I wanted to go camping and I'm not claustrophobic, this seems like a great idea. Then I saw one of the video where he packs this bag. This bag is massive.
Okay.
The bag itself, once rolled up, as convenient as it is, see, it's this big, it's this. And at that point, I'm like, this is not convenient to carry around at all. This requires a car. And what do you know? It is 100% tied to the pickup lifestyle.
Yeah. So I'm sure all this stuff is not for motorcycles. That is definitely going to go with the car. I can't imagine something like that being strapped onto a bike. So yeah, I think it's an enabler for those kind of lifestyles, and you have options to do things like that. And if you're interested, it requires a fair bit of figuring stuff out from whatever I've understood from friends, because it's bits and pieces you take from this one and get it done from here. So it's not easy. So you might look at some great setups and think that it's plug and play. Not always. Not always. And I have met some folks now who have extensive setups, not in an Isuzu or in a Hilux. One of them was a Pajero, but beautifully, like he has a kitchen that just slides out, and he's out there cooking in the open. He's got his own water, he's got his own stove, and all of that. It was kick-ass. I really enjoyed that. So that kind of enablement through these pickups and what you modify with them will happen, but the legality of all this is a big question mark still.
Yeah, I'm just saying, look, you're welcome to your lifestyle, but if you're going to say I'm a minimalist and I have a pickup truck and I have a slide-out kitchen and all of that, it's not minimalist anymore, is it?
It's not minimalist, man. Why does it have to
And
be
I'm just making a point.
It's about being out there. And I think, ठीक है, खुद से निकल गए.
Okay, if you want to do all of this, great, please do it. Then please do go outside.
So when we come back to the Hilux now, this is a car that is going to be an adjustment even in terms of lifestyle. Your parking garage has to be big enough. Keep that in mind. It's not a small thing, right? And then to live with it every day is also going to be a compromise. The price tag is something you can easily figure out. The rest of it is fairly easy to get used to.
Yeah, it's a Toyota, so the rest of it will be easy, right?
Yeah.
Keeping it, servicing it, things will not break and all of that stuff is
Efficiency
easy.
also, I was strangely surprised. Like in the city, managing 10, 11
That's not
with
bad.
the manual. Yeah, not bad. And on the highway, it was about 15.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to complete your SUV lifestyle, buy a Maruti Espresso, the smallest SUV money can buy in the country right now, and then you park it in the load bay. So then in one parking lot, you can have two cars, and none of your neighbors can lay claim to that.
Okay. What else is there to talk about this car?
If I were to have only enough money to buy a Hilux, and this was my family car, would it be a good idea?
No. I think that's clear. Because I don't think you'd be happy driving this around every day, aside from the size. The size is an obvious inconvenience because the turning radius and all, the heaviness of the steering, the bumpiness of the suspension. And today, like if you think about it, like if you just want to make a statement, like a Thar Rox is striking a pretty cool balance of looking the part and being easy enough to drive and easy enough to live with.
And even that is a compromise car in terms of space at least.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. But even then, it's something that I can imagine people being able to live with now, which I wouldn't have said for the Thar 3-door, and I still can't say for the Thar 3-door. But the Rox, you can manage to pull that off.
Got it.
So,
apart from the name.
Apart from the name. And
a family car should not have a double X in it, you know what I mean?
Hey Deva. Okay. So no, I can't. That I can't think of. It has to
So
be.
this is genuinely like the second or the third or the fourth vehicle in your garage. There's no way around this.
It can't be. And again, it has to be a utility need. Otherwise, I think you're unnecessarily bothering yourself. That's basically it. If you had to pick within the Toyota
So if you
family,
genuinely have a farm and you genuinely cart things around,
yeah,
and this is the vehicle that you've chosen to do some of that with, yeah, fair enough, it will work.
and if you wanted a Toyota and you wanted to make a statement, you wanted it to be fun to drive, something that's easy to live with.
Don't get the Legend, get the Legender.
Exactly. And that's what I came away from this thinking, that as much as I wanted to say that this is the Toyota I want to buy, because see, as a
No,
statement,
the Toyota you want to buy is the Celica WRC.
Okay. For me, it's the LFA.
Is the LFA? LFA is not there anymore.
तब भी
Celica WRC will come.
चाहिए तो वही है, चाहिए तो वही है.
That's a Lexus, it's not a Toyota.
वही है वो.
But it's not a Toyota.
Okay. Okay. GT86.
Now you're hitting, yeah. The Gazoo Racing Edition. If there is one, I don't know if there is one.
Happy thoughts, happy thoughts.
We were talking about it as that we want to underline the idea that this is a lifestyle vehicle in the sense of cannot be your primary. It will be very difficult to live with. Not impossible for everybody, but for most of you, you will get annoyed with the car eventually if this is your primary.
And yeah, like this to me was like a cooler statement in the Toyota family compared to the Fortuner, because the Fortuner has a bit of a rep now. But I've come away from driving the Hilux and thinking that no, if I had to be spending this kind of money, I'd go for the Fortuner.
The problem, I think, Karthik, is that you're driving the stock Hilux. And the stock Hilux is just, it's the platform. Then you start doing stuff to it. I mean, if you don't have a winch and you don't have, ARB suspension and then 32 lights, so that's actually Hilux, you know what I mean? What's the point?
I have no interest in any of that.
After that, you go to the GK2 market, you switch on all your lights and go through urban civilization looking down on people. That is how the Hilux is supposed to work. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I mean, your car had high lift suspension at least?
No, sir. Stock. I'm a stockist. Yep. I like all my vehicles stock.
You're not in the Isuzu lifestyle.
Yeah.
In the
Hilux
pickup lifestyle.
No. I think I'd be very happy with a V-Cross standard. I don't think I'd want to make any modifications to that. That'd be just fine.
If you were to buy the Isuzu, would you buy the rear-wheel drive one or the four-wheel drive one?
I mean, go all in once. That's it.
Four-wheel drive.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. Then you can do whatever you want after that. It's done. We were supposed to be talking about the Hilux, but I think we made a point about the Hilux and what the
quick summary
is for. Yeah, please go ahead.
This is the quick summary for the Toyota Hilux. It has taken us 2 years to get to the car because it's been a really busy car and we haven't had a chance to get to it. The Hilux is based on the same platform as the Innova and the Fortuner and the Legendary. I don't know how many years are there, and the top of that is the Hilux. This is the largest car to come from that platform. It's almost exactly the same as a Fortuner under the hood, 2.8 liter 4-cylinder diesel. We drove the manual, which has a 420 Newton meters tune. If you take the automatic, which is what I think you should, you would get the 500 Newton meter state of tune. If you do take the manual, there'll be an IMT button on your dashboard. It's a good button to press because it basically smoothens your gear changes, both going up the gearbox and down the gearbox. It is going to make the whole car feel a lot smoother, and smoother is a thing that we need to discuss. It's not the powertrain, it's the suspension. The fundamental thing you have to understand about all pickup trucks on earth is that they are primarily designed to do a job, and that job includes carrying an enormous amount of weight at the back of the car in the load bay. In the case of the Hilux, that's 500 kilos. And that means the suspension is expected to work when there's that much load sitting that far back in the car. And when that load is not there, which is how lifestyles work, you're not constantly going to carry 500 kilos around. This car can feel a little bit bouncy and jittery. It's the ladder frame itself, and it is also the suspension tune. So when you drive it in urban streets and you hit a bump here and there, this is not going to feel like the most comfortable, absorbent car, where you might even wonder, where is the legend of the Hilux actually coming from? It couldn't even do that. It's when you hit a lot of those things continuously at slightly higher speeds, especially when you're fully loaded, that's when you start to understand what this car is about. It's a work car, not a lifestyle car. We are interpreting it as a lifestyle car, which will immediately cause compromises in your comfort. Remember this is the core of this story. Now, if you were to drive around with your friends or family, the cabin itself is actually okay. The AC works, it's reasonably quiet. It's a Toyota cabin, and Toyota really doesn't know how to do luxury until a Lexus badge enters the picture. So when you see it, it is a utilitarian cabin. Everything will work, everything will make sense. But will you feel like, oh, what an expensive car? No, that's not going to happen. This is more or less the same as a Fortuner. The Fortuner was not a great starting point on this particular front anyway. But you have great seats, and at least for short durations, even for extremely tall passengers, the cabin is not going to feel super cramped. It's good enough. The cabin is black. I've seen the cabin, we didn't mention it. The cabin is black, so it does look a little bit more closed in than it actually is. And I think if there were a lighter colored interior trim, it might actually help this car feel a little bit more spacious. Apart from that, there's a generous load bay. I know this because at the racetrack, 2 or 3 people use Hiluxes now. Many other people have used Isuzus before to load bikes on it. These are not long enough for a bike to go in lengthways. They have to leave the tailgate open, sometimes reinforce the tailgate hinges so that the extra weight can be accounted for. But it works in that format. And I suspect that when you put that kind of load in the back, where there's 2 bikes weighing about 400 kilos, suddenly the car seems to settle down and make sense. So this will make a pretty decent highway car. It will settle down, it will do long distances, engine at 100 kmph is doing just 1500 rpm, it just feels completely relaxed. But because it's so large, you don't have to do a Creta thing of flashing people to get out of the way. They just see this enormous thing coming in the rearview mirror and they just move out, and it's a very peaceful car to drive in that sense in most situations. Flip side, when you go into urban traffic, this is a very large and long car. The sides are more or less straight, you'll get used to that pretty rapidly. The length, I believe you will get used to, but will it be convenient to drive in relatively heavy traffic? It's a pickup truck and it's a large one, so by our standards a large one, so it's not going to do such a great job of it. Apart from that, it's a Toyota, which means once you buy it, your basic job is over. Now you get it serviced regularly, replace whatever parts wear out as they wear out, and life just goes on peacefully. Karthik's point is very simple. This is a pickup truck, which in India is a lifestyle thing, but as a design is a workhorse thing. There's a gap in the middle, watch for the gap. This may not be the ideal choice for your primary vehicle. This might be something that you will add to your garage as a second, third, fourth option as you're expressing yourself in terms of I love cars and I'd like to see what kind of cars I love. But as a primary car, this is not going to be easy to live with. What Karthik's point is, if you wanted to use a pickup truck as your primary, then look at the Isuzu instead. The V-Cross is a far more natural pickup in that lifestyle. It's a little bit more comfortable. Yes, a little less powerful also, but it's a more comfortable car by default. So it will fit into your lifestyle a little bit more naturally than the Hilux would. Does it have the same kind of reliability as a Toyota? Anecdotally, yes. But does it have the same aura of reliability that Toyotas generally do? Obviously not.
Super. Minor things, feature-wise, Fortuner gets ventilated seats. This does not. That kind of stuff. Has drum brakes at the rear.
It doesn't matter, it's a Toyota, it'll still work.
Exactly. It's meant to work with the higher loads at the rear.
Okay, so in summary, that was what we wanted to discuss about the Toyota Hilux. There is a new black edition if you're interested. It has a lot less chrome, and that might actually be a good idea because I think there's way too much chrome. But
actually, it's interesting that we're talking the Hilux now.
Why?
Because I think we are going to be at the end of the Hilux of this generation. We got it in 2022, but this Hilux has been around for
a long time. Yeah,
very long time.
Correct.
Very, very long time.
All Hiluxes have been around for a long time, if you know what I mean.
This is globally what is the 8th generation, and if I'm not wrong, it's been over 10 years or so since this thing has been around. I'll put the exact date out, but I was looking it up because I realized that because I hadn't driven it, I'd really not looked into it.
So maybe now is a good time to buy this Hilux because the discounts are available, like we've already discussed. It's approaching the end of its life, and the next Hilux odds are it's going to be even larger to drive.
Because we know the new Fortuner's coming, which is which will be a new generation, which will not be dramatically different, which is safe to assume that there will be, of course, a new generation Hilux as well.
This Hilux is likely to get even larger. So if you want a reasonably sized pickup rather than an enormously large pickup, then maybe now is a good time to pick up a Hilux.
Alrighty then.
If you have any more questions, please do leave us a comment. Any way you like is fine. The app works best for us because we can track your comments a little bit better there. But that aside, this is the Hilux, and tell us what you'd like to see more of on MotorInc First. Before we go, what else is coming for cars, Karthik?
Cars, not much actually.
We are the world's second, third largest car market. How can not a
I
lot
don't
be
know,
coming?
things going very slow right now. So I think the only one that I have got an invite for right now is the Skoda Kodiaq.
Okay.
That's the one that's going to come.
Hmm.
That's happening sometime in April,
Okay.
first half of April.
Hmm.
So we'll be driving that.
Hmm.
There will be the Tiguan that will come, the R line.
Tiguan,
Big
big one. Sorry, yeah.
R line. And they have also announced the
R
Golf.
line. Oh, R line. Okay.
And they have also announced the Golf GTI,
Hmm.
which will also be coming.
Which will be like 50 lakh rupees.
Yeah, I mean, it's 50 lakhs might be a bit much.
Okay, 49. Sure.
Something will be there.
Hmm.
So that is also going to happen. But are we going to drive the Golf? I have no idea right now. I
Hmm.
do know that the Kodiaq, we've
But
already.
you know what GTI stands for, right?
No.
Go to India.
Kahan se? Anyways, yeah. So Golf is coming, and we will have. I mean, there's lots more that's going to come, but nothing as of now.
But what about the Espresso 4x4? That's the one I want to buy. The little SUV that could.
Specifically Shumi ke liye banega wo. You'll have to drive it around, okay? The only car I'm willing to drive is the Espresso 4x4. सोच ले अटक गया. Yeah, so I mean, cars, I think we'll see action only post, I mean, from April onwards.
Yeah.
There's, and interestingly, it's a whole bunch of EVs coming our way.
Hmm.
But when they're coming right now, we don't have a clear lock on dates.
Got it.
But it'll keep coming. There's lots. Like, I think the first few that we do know, and there's a clear timeline to it, will be the Karen's update, the Karen's facelift, and the Karen's EV, which will come close by. So that will be April, May.
What is the Karen's EV likely to be called?
I don't know.
Kareens.
I-
Which is a handling term, so.
I'm actually, the only thing that I thought about was the Karen's update, which is not going to be really an update. They're looking to bring in a higher spec of the Karen's. So I've been going on thinking of it as the Karen's limousine, like how they're the Carnival limousine.
Correct.
And I think that's a solid opportunity. They could really, really do a kick-ass job of that. So let's see.
All right. Are we done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for watching. This is MotorInc First, and we'll come back to you with some other car or bike very, very soon.